You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Bold and the Beautiful fans, we have got Thomas Forrester back to the soap in just a couple of weeks, and we'll see if he's still engaged or not. If not, Thomas is going to need some love in his life, and his ex certainly has her hands full with other men. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about who Thomas might end up with once he's back in LA, since Hope is juggling 2 men already. And hey, please click that subscribe button if you're not already following us. All right, so Thomas is back on screen this September, just a few weeks, but so far we still don't know if his return is going to be a quick in and out that's going to upset fans because it's just a drive-by for closure purposes, or maybe, hopefully, Matt Atkinson is sticking around for a while. So far, it looks like Diamond White is not back as Paris. She's busy with tons of other projects. And of course, last we saw Thomas and Paris, they were engaged. They were making wedding plans, but all that could have changed by now. But still, we got to mention that, Thomas may come back. Maybe he's still with Paris. They're still engaged and they return to get married. Maybe Thomas is back to get hitched to Paris at Eric Forrester's mansion, as they made plans for, I think it was a year ago. I think it was last summer. But if they do have Thomas back to marry Paris and run off with her and Douglas with their happily ever after, I'm guessing Bold is going to be dealing with a lot of angry fans because they've made such a big deal out of Matt Atkinson's return. So, assuming Thomas is staying and is not getting married to Paris, I want to talk about options for his love life. One of them could be Ivy Forrester. And yes, I know Thomas and Ivy share the same last name, but they are not related. There is not one drop of blood shared between them. Ivy is related to Eric Forrester, but Thomas is not, because he is actually a Moroni by blood. So it is a possibility on Bold. And in fact, back in the Pearson Faudet days when he was playing Thomas, there was a little flirtmance and some smooching between Ivy and Thomas. And so as Thomas returns, we're going to see Ivy dealing with rejection. She really wanted to get with Liam, but when Ivy told Liam that she still cares about him, Liam very nicely, very gently rejected Ivy, and he told her Hope is the woman that he wants. So that means Ivy should be available when Thomas gets back to town. So, they might reconnect and find love this time around. And next, we've obviously got to talk about Hope, even though, as I said, she's got her hands full. She's engaged to Carter, but Liam also wants Hope back with him, presumably to get remarried. And when Thomas returns, that could be a game changer for Hope. Right now, she's torn between Carter and Liam, but when Hope sees Thomas is back, all those really strong feelings Hope had for Thomas could come rushing back. I mean, Hope really loved Thomas, and what they had was real. It was intense, and she said no man had ever made her feel that way. And even though Hope reminded Liam that she's engaged to Carter when he was making a play for her, when Hope sees Thomas, she might forget about that ring on her finger. She certainly forgot about Liam's ring on her finger, and they were actually married. So Carter and Liam could both wind up dumped, and Hope runs back into her ex's arms. The last time Thomas was in LA, Hope still wanted him, and she was asking him to break up with Paris and choose her. So those feelings are there. But in case Hope sticks with one or both of the guys that are pursuing her right now, another option for Thomas is Bold and the Beautiful could bring back Paris's sister, Zoe Buckingham. If you remember, she was name dropped recently by Grace Buckingham, so you never know. And if you remember, Thomas actually dated Zoe before. In fact, Thomas was even engaged to Zoe, but it wasn't real for him. Thomas was using Zoe to try and trick and gaslight Hope into into being with him. And then at Thomas and Zoe's wedding, it all blew up in Thomas's face, and Hope and Zoe both let him have it, and he was exposed. But maybe, Thomas apologizes, he makes things right, and ironically, Zoe winds up back under his spell. But if Bold wants to go with someone totally new for Thomas, they could always pair him with Laney, the girl who works at Forrester Creations that we're seeing a lot of lately. She was the girl that was super flirty with Will at the Il Giardino party, but then he made it clear he only wants Electra. So Laney wound up partying and hanging out with Zende, but Thomas is a hunkety hunk, so when he swoops back into town, Laney might, say Zende who, if she even really has an interest in Zende, because I think that was just a casual hang. And, Laney might spark with Thomas. Another twisty new thing for him could be if Thomas decides to do what all Forrester men do and double dip in the Logan waters. And I'm not talking about Hope. I mean, several Forrester men have been with more than one Hope Logan type woman. So why not Thomas? He could give Dr. Bridget Forrester a go, which would be interesting because Hope might get really jealous if Thomas started dating her big sister. That could start some big drama. I mean, Bridget lost her husband to her mom, Brooke, for a while. Imagine if Bridget then lost her boyfriend to her sister, Hope. That would be fun stuff. And last but not least, if Bold and the Beautiful really wants to go somewhere dark and twisted and weird, there's always lunatic Luna Nizawa. We know that she really wants Will, but there's no way in heck that Luna is going to get to be with him in the long run. Will loves Electra and he despises Luna, and Will's going to hate her even more when he finds out she molested him while he was drunk. And we all know, of course, Thomas used to be quite the bad boy back in the day. He was dark. So if they find a way to redeem Luna at least enough to where she's free to walk around LA, maybe she and Thomas get a spicy romance going. I would hope not, though, but I have to mention it. Luna does need a good influence in her life, and Thomas has come out of serious darkness and become a much better man. So he could be part of her redemption story, like Deacon was part of Sheila's redemption story. Although I'm not sure anything can truly redeem Luna, but maybe Thomas could try. Love can change people, maybe even Luna. I do think Will would prefer Luna to date Thomas and forget about him. And even Grandmas Lee and Sheila would prefer Luna with Thomas than with her continuing to stalk and target and prey on Will. And worst case scenario, if Thomas comes back hoping for a reunion with Hope and then she turns him down, well, Thomas could always pull mannequin Hope out of storage and date the doll, hang her around with his place. I would hope not, because he had a serious brain injury when that was happening. What I'm really hoping for is Thomas comes back to stay and he finds a real love, not with Luna, not with Laney, not with Bridget Paris or Zoe. I'd like to see Thomas back with Hope, but there's already a line forming at her door with Carter and Liam right there, but maybe Thomas could cut to the front of that line.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.